Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Killjoys. So kind of picking up where last week's episode left off, kind of some interesting developments that, like, in context, when we learned them in this episode, it kind of makes sense for a lot of actions. Like, in particular, why Dutch put Davin in a position to fight this war, to be the leader of the war. At first, I didn't really I was like, okay, she's just freaking out about what she knows. It's like, I guess arguably could say that is that, but it wasn't until this episode pointed out, like, killing Anila would mean that she would die too. So before I thought it was just kind of an identity crisis thing of like, oh, I'm not real or whatever, which that might have played a role in it, but mainly it's because, I mean, this episode, she took the time, she had Zeph kind of read into it, but it wasn't until like Zeph was trying to explain things and then like Dutch is like, I know. It's like, no, you don't really understand how the green works. It's like, I know. I'm like, oh, like I said, like, because they are connected, that the moment she was born from Anila's green, so it's like the moment Anila's gone, she's gone as well. It's many different examples, like basically the same equivalency to like when you had Klein poisoning the Arkan supply, and that kind of killed all the other like Holland. So, but the fact of the matter is that killed the Holland, the green inside of them. She was born from Anila's green, so they're connected. So the moment she's gone, Dutch would be gone. I mean, the question then too is, what if you somehow miraculously found a way to cure Anila? Would that mean Dutch would still cease to exist, or would she still live on? That might be ultimately what goes through, because she ends up telling Davin this much later on in the episode. So Davin's acting like he's okay with the plan, but deep down he's not. The fact of the matter is, he's going to probably try and find another way. But it's war, so it's like this is a sacrifice that needs to be made. She told Davin because Davin cares about her, but he's a general. He's the one leading his army in a sense, so he has to be practical about it. She knows that if she told Johnny would be doing everything he possibly could to save her. Which isn't to say Davin wouldn't, but she knows like Davin will, I guess as a soldier too, Davin will be able to kind of like compartmentalize, I guess is one way you can kind of think of it. So it blew my mind, because I'd never thought about that prior. Like, it didn't even connect in my head that'd be a possibility. So, but that does throw out, like I said, throw out the question of like, if Anila was cured, would that mean Dutch would be okay? Part of me would think not, because even when you're curing someone, you're still you would still be killing the green inside of them, so Dutch would still die anyway. So, because I was curious, I thought it was kind of interesting that the entire episode, like, you had Dutch kind of being a little chipper and stuff like that, and even Davin was like, yo, something's up with that. Even I was like, why is she so chipper? It's like, did she have Zeph test something on her, like, to kind of make her all chipper or something? Did an experiment go wrong or whatever? Like, because she was so down before, knowing what she knows, and the fact that she hasn't told anyone, she now has told Zeph and Davin. They're the only two people that know the truth. And that does beg the question, what's going to happen now that Zeph knows? Like, Zeph will probably keep it hush-hush, but at the same time, because she's a part of the team now, I kind of think Zeph might take this opportunity to kind of warn Johnny about Dutch and her plan. So, but obviously, I'm kind of skipping around a lot, but obviously, one big thing about this episode is trying to, like, they've run many simulations about how they're going to fight the Holland, but sadly, every simulation, it was like 120 some they ran, and everyone ended with them losing big time. So they ended up finding out that there's devices, like, they're basically the cubes, like, that Klein has made, like, all those, like, hideouts, and the one that kept Anila for so long, basically emit a certain frequency that mess with Holland ships. So it's like, it's the perfect weapon, they just need something to kind of properly utilize it through, and they end up tracking down a sonic device. People got it. They end up having to steal it from them. What gets interesting is the fact is that they cross paths with Borna again, and lo and behold, who is she married to? None other than Jelko. Interestingly enough, he's actually her third husband. And what I love is that I think it's the second husband that constantly calls him a turd. Even to the point, was it Davin? It was like, is that all you can say? No, it was Johnny that was like, is that all you can say? And also, like, I love the conversation of Dutch being like, yeah, I know it's like, when Davin and Joko get taken and get in trouble and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, I know what happens when your right-hand man is in trouble. And Johnny's like, hey, I'm right here. It's like, no, you're my left arm. You're my left arm, man. He's like, that's the more handsome one, right? Obviously, like, Davin's kind of the right-hand man, kind of guns blazing type of dude, while Johnny's kind of the brains and heart, more so the heart, but kind of, the brains obviously as well. I mean, I guess arguably could say, Dutch is more the brains and then Johnny's the heart and Davin's the kick ass. I mean, obviously that's interchangeable amongst all three of them. So nevertheless, I was actually surprised with Joko's return because it's like, let's not forget Joko's like a total piece of crap, after everything he did back in season 2, kind of a douchebag. And to see him in this new light was weird because even he was kind of like, I wouldn't want life to be any other way. Like, I don't, I'm not on top, but I'm not on bottom. I found this sweet spot in the middle. Like, he's with Borna because he actually loves her. He was even trying to steal some crystals from the moles to give to her because it was their anniversary and stuff. And she was even like, okay, you can sit at the front with me. And he's like, ha, take that, number one. The fact of the matter is, he's like, yeah, she beats me up a little bit and yells at me, but she loves me. And then obviously after loving me, she'll, beat me up a little bit more. But it was just so interesting seeing not the same dude that we saw back in season 2. Like, the disgustingly conniving douchebag he was. I mean, granted, there could always be another angle to this, but it does seem like he is sincere. So he ended up having this very deep conversation with Davin, and he's like, kind of to make things work with Dutch. He's like, the fact of the matter is, if you want things to kind of, you have to give her something that no one else can, And I guess for Davin, that's his support in this situation, because I guess it's like, she knows, like, amongst the people that care about her, none of them would be okay with her making the decision of like, hey, I'm going to sacrifice myself to make sure Neela is taken down. So maybe his support is what that would be, or maybe it's something we just haven't gotten to see yet. I'm curious to see what that really is, whether that is like the ending of him accepting the plan, is it or not, but we'll have to wait and see. But another big part of this episode was about Anila. Turns out Gander isn't dead, and it's like, in retrospect, I'm like, I should have figured as much. Holland can heal. I mean, unless their skulls pop, they're good. So she's probably just knocking them all out. It's like, yeah, you can recover. So I was thinking she was killing them all, but it's like, no, unless their heads explode, she's not killing them. Not unless it's just, she can just turn the brain, not unless she turns their brain to mush inside their head, something like that. But nevertheless, we kind of dove a little deeper into this whole situation where it's like, she's torturing Gander a bit, like slicing him up. He's regenerating over and over again, trying to get in the information. And he kind of taunts her a little bit because he's like, hey, you could always get the information by tapping into my memories. But the fact of the matter is, you can't do that without revealing yourself to the lady. You're kind of basically saying, like, that's why Anila's afraid, which she's gotten in green before, but I'm guessing all the green she's kind of gotten in when she's wanting to do something has always been, obviously it's green of her own making, so I assume that's the reason why. Like, this is probably like one of the first times she needs something for herself, but it would mean tapping into green that she doesn't have time to, she doesn't have time to, like, drain herself out to get inside of green. I mean, because it seems like it's not even just all green that the lady is connected to. It seems like specifically respective persons, like, green, like, each one of them has their own green within them. And it's like, maybe, like, the lady doesn't have control over those, and maybe she does, but it's to a slighter extent. I don't know. But Anila ended up doing that, using the green and Gander and getting inside of his memories. But the lady then takes over her ship. So we ended up learning, because, Anila explained it to Dulce of, like, who this lady is. And my previous assumption is that it was her mom, and this mom is like the top head of the Holland, which to a certain extent we still don't know who the mom, if it could be the mom route, but at the very least the lady is within the green. That's why she constantly referred to the green as a she. I thought that was kind of something else entirely. I thought it's just like, I thought she personified it herself, but it's like, no, like, well, I felt like the green was its own entity, but it doesn't seem like the green is, but at the same time, there's a lady within the green, so. Which kind of makes you wonder, like, how this all, like, I guess, like, are all Holland children from the lady? Was a late like did Green already exist, but then the lady herself, maybe she's a Holland and she got sealed inside of the Green, or has she always been a part of the Green? Or I would assume it's the former and not the latter. So luckily for Anila, she was able to get to Delsea beforehand and was obviously quite surprised to see her, in the condition that she's in, which I brought up before. It does seem like she is pregnant. To what extent, what that really means, even Anila is not 100% sure. I'm kind of interpreting it as like, oh, this is her giving birth to a new breed of Holland that are stronger than before. Like what the benefits of that would be, I don't know. Like, is it a situation of like, would it, like, because, everything Anila has ever done has been for the purposes of making herself perfect, and maybe this kind of fits along that same line, and maybe this will be why she takes even more of an interest in Dabin, because it's like, oh, you're stuck by my, you're stuck by Dutch's side and all of this, you should be by my side, no, because she has Anila, so, Anila has Delsea, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, I apologize, Anila has Delsea, so it seems like that's kind of our established thing. So it's not like she's looking to be with Dabin. I don't really necessarily mean that. I mean like, oh, you could be by my side. You could be my, in this particular case, Delsea is her right hand. Dabin could be her left hand, her guiding weapon in controlling everything, them mixed together. Because she has taken an interest in Dabin. To what extent she'll go through for this, it seems like, whatever, Dabin's whole situation mixed with Holland kind of. At least that's what I thought. Like that's what I interpreted that whole situation as, because she does have his DNA. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe that was just something that she was working on entirely. So maybe I've been misinterpreting that this entire time. But nevertheless, my brain immediately goes there that it is going back to what I was saying, a baby, got a new breed of Holland, or maybe it's supposed to be. Given the fact is that. This way, they're probably making it so that Holland can now give birth. Like, if this goes through without a hitch, that means that Holland won't need human hosts anymore. Like, they could keep their human hosts now, but give birth to new Holland and never have to worry about putting those Holland inside of humans and stuff to keep their race alive. That if they wanted to, they could wipe out all humans now. That might ultimately be the plan. I'm also curious about, like, how would they go about freeing the lady? Because it seems like that's her motive and everything. It's like probably everything is behind trying to somehow free her. She wants to free herself, but it's like, how would you even free yourself from the Green? Like, to be fair, I guess that's what Anila is supposed to represent, why they've taken such a special interest in. Because Gander had her drinking and bathing in Green from all different, spots. And I guess that's the point, is for her to get a little bit of a taste and get a awareness of all the different Green around, so that she can have a better understanding. Because we saw what she did with Dutch, so much so that Anila could do the same thing and pull her out. Which is kind of something I want to bring up too earlier. I'm glad I brought that up to kind of transition back into that. It kind of goes hand in hand. Is it a sense of you pulling a memory out, or are you taking those the Green slime already contains all of your memories inside of it, especially if it's your own Green. So did she really bring herself back from her memories, or is it more like the Green took on the form of a young Anila? Which I feel like it has to be the former, just because I feel like if it was the latter, there'd be some Green in her. But since she's constructed from the Green, she's not a Holland, so she's not going to bleed Green, but because she was born from it, shaped from the Green. Overall, a very good episode with some interesting developments and interesting reveals. I'm very interested to see how this all plays out in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.